Krishna.
I think it's not working.
Is it working now?
No.
Krishna. Let me press this one. There.
Hello.
You can on it. It's on there. Hello.
Now it's
It's working now. Yeah, I got it. Very good.
Hare Krishna, Hare
5 more minutes.
Hello, Hare Krishna. 7 minutes and then class is starting. So first I will sing, then you will please follow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, पंचतत्वा जयो पंचतत्वा जय पंचतत्वा जयो पंचतत्वा जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद निताय गौरनंदे हरि हरि बोल।
Hare Krishna. So now we will have Sunday Feast Bhagavatam class by Her Grace Govinda Devi Mataji. She is a director of ISKCON Dublin and she is managing devotee relation and fundraising programs here. So her introduction is something we can say that her management skills can be seen through her. Okay, so Mataji wants to start the class, so we can start now itself here. So let's welcome Govinda Devi Mataji by 3 times loudly chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
A very serious subject. I don't know why, but maybe because my Guru Maharaj recently published an article which is to do with this topic, but that's not why I chose it. It was like in the air somehow for me. So anyway, but before we start speaking, let's just do some bhajan that Srila Prabhupada brought to us, which we don't even deserve to hear, you know, never mind to sing, but it's very, very intimate. Is there any newcomers here today, by the way? Is there somebody who's complete? Whoa, very nice, welcome, welcome, very nice. So anyway, okay, good to know, we have some new people here, so, okay, we'll start. This is something that helps us, you know, when, help us set up the mind in the right way, you see, to make our mind, because we're so into the material things, you see, we're rushing everywhere, trying to get some material things. So it's nice to settle us down with this very, very spiritual bhajan. So Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Srila Prabhupada, it's the teacher who is originally from India. He brought the science of Krishna consciousness, and I repeat, the science of Krishna consciousness to the West. That's why otherwise we wouldn't know about this beautiful science, the science of knowing God, really. That's why we always pay obeisances to him and we glorify him, because he was never, not many people know him apart from Hare Krishnas, because he never spoke about himself ever. You know, he was always kind of propagating, you know, Krishna, God, the idea of God and the idea of Krishna consciousness. And he shared it very, very generously with us. So, as I said, I've chosen this very difficult, not difficult, maybe challenging for some people topic, which is called Krishna consciousness. Is it a science or is it a religion? Can somebody say, what do they think? Okay, about the newcomers, what do they think? Can somebody be brave and say, what do they think? Is it a science or is it a religion? Based on what you already see, even in the temple. You're in the temple after all. It's a place of God, really.
It's a spiritual science.
Spiritual science. But is it a religion?
No.
No,
Why not?
it's a way of life.
It's a way of living, yeah.
I could say yes, it's religion, because the meaning of the word religion from Greek, it means union with God, so that's a religion.
Very good. That's correct. Yes, it is a connection
That
with
it
God.
was-
Religio
That
from
it
Greek.
is it was twisted, as many anarchy was twisted, because anarchy is when you recognize only God as a ruler and nothing, no one else, and it was twisted. So
Very
religion did the
Very
same
good.
way.
Very good. Religio, yes, it's connection with God. So before actually, so I don't feel right when I don't speak from the scripture. You see, this is why it is scientific, because it's always, Krishna consciousness is based on a very, very, it's grounded on a very, very deep philosophy. This is what Srila Prabhupada brought to us. So I'm going to just read from this book. I hope you've heard about it. It's called Bhagavad Gita. If you don't have it, you have to buy it. This is the book. I have these two ladies here. They're from Moldova, and they swear by this book, really, you know, because they went to a course, they studied, they're still studying in the course, and they're learning so much from it. Yes, this is true. Yes, you see, it's a life-changing book. This book is a life-changing, and I'm not saying it lightly, because it's changed my mind too, life too. So anyway, before I start, I'll read a little bit, just a little, one verse from this book. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namah.
It's from the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and the verse is called, the chapter is called The Most Confidential Knowledge. So in this book, Krishna himself, i.e. God, is talking to his friend, to a person just like you and me, and he's telling him in this chapter, which is called The Most Confidential Knowledge. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam
Rajavidya Rajaguhyam
Pavitram Idam Uttamam
Pavitram Idam Uttamam
Pratyakshavagamam Dharmyam
Pratyakshavagamam
Susukham Kartam Avyayam.
Susukham Kartam.
This is in Sanskrit, by the way. Whoever studied Sanskrit, it's the origin, the root of all, almost all, apart from two, I think, Indo-European languages. They all came from Sanskrit. So this book is written on Sanskrit. Translation and purport. It's a very, very long commentary. Srila Prabhupada commented this verse, but I'm going to just read a little bit. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. Just think of it, it's beautiful. You know, God Himself is saying, look, I'm just giving you this, sharing this knowledge, which is the perfection of religion, and it is joyfully performed. Srila Prabhupada wrote in his purport, this chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the King of Education, because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. Among the principal philosophers in India are Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Yajnavalkya, Sandilya, and Vaishvanara. And finally, there is Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra. So there is no dearth. Dearth is shortage, for those who don't know. Well, I'm not English. English is not my mother tongue, so that's why I'm explaining. Dearth means shortage, for those who don't know. So there is no dearth of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now the Lord says that the 9th chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of the Vedas and different kinds of philosophy. It is the most confidential, because confidential or transcendental knowledge involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body. And the king of all confidential knowledge culminates in devotional service. So I'll stop here, it's a long purport. So Srila Prabhupada used to say that when he was asked, there's this book that he wrote, it's called The Science of Self-Realization, very interesting book as well for those who don't have it, better have it, it's a very good book. But Srila Prabhupada's talking to all sorts of different people, and he's been interviewed so many occasions as well, and he was asked lots of very challenging questions, and he beautifully, very beautifully answers all these questions. So in one of those interviews, when he was asked, what is Krishna consciousness? He said, Krishna means God. We are all intimately connected with Him, but we, because He is our original Father. But we have lost this connection. And when we finally start asking ourselves the questions, who am I? Why am I here? You know? Is there God? If there is God, so what is my connection to Him? So when we start asking questions like that, that means we're Krishna conscious. Simple. How many of you started asking these questions at some point? Yeah. Well, that means, so this is what it means. So Krishna consciousness means God consciousness. You know, when the soul finally, a living being finally starts asking himself or herself these questions, that means that that's okay. Something has awakened. I remember years ago, my husband, when he started to read another book by Srila Prabhupada called Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a 12-volume book. It's very, very big. And he was amazed. And my husband, he's PhD, he's Doctor of Sciences actually. He's teaching computer sciences in UCD. But he was amazed. And he said, in this book I find answers to the questions I've always had, but they've never been answered. And immediately he started reading that book, and he immediately started to get those questions. So anyway, and then I actually wanted to tell you the structure. This is the structure of this short class that I wanted to share with you, because it's a big topic, and I just wanted to limit this topic to a few things so that you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So I was planning to say, to answer the question, what is Krishna consciousness? Is pretty much we now know that the Krishna consciousness is the establishing the connection of the soul with God. That's what Krishna consciousness is. Then we're going to talk about religion. So what is religion? And then we're going to discuss briefly the three flows of contemporary mainstream, so to speak, religions. And why Srila Prabhupada didn't want to be associated with one of those religions. And then we're going to talk about what is, like, indeed, like science in the very, very general term. What is science, you know? And what is a scientific process? Because we want to establish here that Krishna consciousness is a science. So we're going to establish first, like, what is science in a very general form. And then how do we actually see that Krishna consciousness is a science? So this is what we're going to talk about. And if you have some questions, in the end you can ask some questions as well. So what is religion? Can anyone venture and say, what is religion? Can somebody answer this question? Yes?
It's path to God, which is it's a personal path to God.
Personal path.
Yeah.
Okay.
To achieving, to connect body, mind, soul, and spirit, and God.
Okay. Connect your spirit, your body, and mind.
It's a specific techniques that that allows you to unite.
To connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very close. So Srila Prabhupada used to say, when he was asked, what is religion? He used to say that primarily, religion means to know God and to love Him. Interesting, isn't it? First of all, we should know Him through religious process, if there is one, and then we're supposed to love Him, you know, just to know Him. Why? To love Him. And Krishna consciousness also answers the question, like, what is the connection? Like, why are you even connected? Like, it's, as Srila Prabhupada very simply just put it, because Krishna is our original father, you know. But this is also, you established from Bhagavad Gita, that the soul is eternal and it cannot be destroyed in any way. You can't. It's eternal. And the soul comes from God Himself, literally. That's why, and there is a connection. So we are of Him. He's our Father, original Father. In Bhagavad Gita, He is saying, I'm a seed-giving Father. And nature is the mother. So anyway, so religion is how to know God and how to love Him. But do we find this in the common religions?
Yes.
Yes?
We do.
If we dig deep.
No, I mean, like what people, like general, let's say, like, I'm a Christian or I'm a Muslim, like, do you? The reason why I'm asking.
In Christianity, it's love thy God with all thy heart, with all thy mind, with all thy soul,
Right.
and love thy
Yes.
neighbor as thyself. When people
Right.
quote it, they always quote love thy neighbor, but they don't quote the bhakti part before. You know?
Yes. So you've nailed it, Ananda, very beautiful, because this is what also Srila Prabhupada said. He said, in Christianity, for instance, there's plenty of knowledge that would allow a person to understand and to know God. But there's literally nobody who is doing that. You know?
There's lots of priests in Africa who can perform miracles today that are living.
Yeah, we thought about miracles. No, I mean, as I said, look, if we start...
God and loving God, it comes first, and it is in Christianity. And they do have their place just as much as Hinduism. Christ was, that's accepted in Hinduism, Christ was a God as well, came alive. And there's lots of people in Africa today that have the same power that Christ had. They're able to heal people. It's true.
Yeah, no, I'm not questioning. Like, what I'm saying is here is that religion is not about God performing miracles, telling us that He is whatever, showing us something. It is about knowing who He is and loving Him. That's what a true religion is. So, but again, like what we find also anyway in Europe, definitely in America, I know for sure as well, that there's this lack of education, lack of knowledge about God, right? Like real knowledge, like what's His name? Does God have a name? Like in Christianity, is there a name?
Yes.
Is there a name? Do you know?
Yahweh.
Right, thank you. Because I asked a few people, a few Christians, and they said, what's your God's name? They couldn't answer this question. How does He look like? What clothes does He wear? Where does He live? Does He have children? So, but in Krishna consciousness, you can ask in each and every of these questions. You can, because we know. Because Krishna consciousness is based on is grounded in very, very deep philosophy and knowledge about God. So anyway, Srila Prabhupada, these are not my words, these are Srila Prabhupada words that nowadays, because of lack of such training, so nobody knows God, really. And what to speak of loving Him, So people are, pretty much satisfied by simply coming to the church and, praying, oh God, please give me my daily bread, and that's and this is why, like Srila Prabhupada used to say that because the people who consider themselves religious, they become affiliated with this particular religion or that particular religion because they have in mind some particular profit, some personal profit, They come and ask, oh God, please give me my daily bread, or please give me a good wife, or please give me a good, give my daughter a good husband. We come with all these asks, So that's why Srila Prabhupada used to call this a cheating religion, because if your purpose is not to know God and to love Him, but to get some particular, some personal profit, then it's cheating. You're a cheater, man. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but this is what Srila Prabhupada felt. Now let's talk about the scientific part of it. So science, the common science. Sorry. Before I could. I'm not trying to, by the way, to downgrade any religion. I am not. That's not what I'm trying to do. Because, as I said, like also Srila Prabhupada used to say on numerous occasions that even, let's say, when he used Christianity as an example, there's plenty of knowledge that would allow a worshipper to know God, to understand Him, and to love Him. But people do not do that, they just don't. They even, the commandments, the 10 Commandments, isn't it, that Jesus Christ, that are in the Bible, they're not following. That's why that's cheating, If you're not following the commandments, you shouldn't be telling, let's say, that I'm a Christian. And the example that he would give was, it says in the Bible that thou shalt not kill. But it's Christians who build so many slaughterhouses around the world. And it's a very, very sad occasion, because thou shalt not kill, it's not about just people, And it is the knowledge that we have from the Vedas is that the soul is not just in you and me, because we are humans. Now, every living creature has a soul, and it's exactly like ours. But the reason why that soul is there in that body is because of the particular desires that soul had in the previous life. And then, because of that desires, degraded himself or herself to a particular body. Basically there's a law of karma, that is part of the Vedic knowledge that Krishna consciousness is grounded on. So, and there's also three sort of major flaws that are that we can all observe in the mainstream religions, and one of them is that there's always a tendency to have this indication that I am, because I am affiliated to this particular religion, you know, I am I'm this because, let's say, I'm, okay, sorry, I'll give an example, because I come from Russia. And in Russia, Hare Krishnas, you know, they were devotees, they were prosecuted. It was like horrible things that were done to them, and lots of questions that the question that they would be asked, you know, they were sentenced, they were put into psychiatric facilities, they were jailed, and always, you know, they would be asked, why this Indian religion, you know? You're Russian, you know, you're supposed to have this like Christian Orthodox religion. But this is one of the major flaws of the religion, that this is the tendency. Whenever there's a affiliation to a particular religion, so there is this tendency to ground your religion on the basis of self, of this false ego, you know. I'm Russian Orthodox because, you know, I'm Russian, you know. I don't need this Indian or whatever, something else. So there's one flaw. There's another flaw, and this, by the way, I didn't also make this up. This is based on the recent article of Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. He published an article recently, I can share it with you if you like, where he established those flaws. Another flaw was that religions usually overemphasize the necessity of faith. And again, examples from Russia, I know one devotee, when he was young, when he was a teenager, he was, you know, there's this calling, you know, like, I just want to know about God for some reason. This just situation kind of, you know, you probably know, everybody would have felt at some point. And so he said, so he came to the church, and this was at the time, like when like the Soviet Union it was an atheistic country, you know, you were supposed to believe in the Communist Party, you know, and the churches were destroyed, all sorts of nasty things were done. But he had this calling, so he came to one church, and then he was talking to the priest was he didn't answer most of his questions, so he was not satisfied, he went to another church and then found another priest. And that priest heard his questions, and then he looked in his eyes and he said, "You, young man, you have faith. Stop being a smart ass." Excuse my language. Pretty much that was the conversation. It's like, don't be smart, you know, just have faith. And again, faith, you have to have. You know, if you don't have faith, forget it, you know, you'll never find God, you'll never learn about Him. Faith you have, but there is a tendency to overemphasize. And what does this come to? Because of that, like if the previous flaw, let's say this false identification with a particular nation or nationality or country or whatever, it breeds hatred, right? And it breeds violence, like in the case of Russia, you know. He hates you because you're trying like to be affiliated with something else, and then there's violence as well, because devotees were killed. They were really killed. I have this, actually I translated this very interesting book that was in Russian. It's called From the River of Time. And there's lots of these stories are there about what was happening in the Soviet Union at the time. So, and the third flaw is the lack of solid philosophy. Another pretty, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, if you find this in, you know, if you came across to some particular situation where you were lucky to find somebody in a particular religion who'd be very, very knowledgeable and would be explaining things. Well, I haven't. And I know they do exist. obviously, but there are not many. It's not a mainstream situation. And this also kind of breeds intolerance, you know, because, I guess, funny, this is also in this book, funny situation which happened in Russia. In 1998, there was, when Krishna consciousness was already allowed in the Soviet Union, and they were even, you know, registered as a religious organization, wherever. But then there was the split inside ISKCON, because one particular priest, he was he did so many wonderful things, but for some reason he kind of started to fall down, so to speak. He was doing funny things. But anyway, he was not allowed to take disciples anymore because he was not behaving the way he was supposed to behave, and he wasn't like following the rules and regulations and all that. So anyway, his disciples, what they did, because they didn't want ISKCON without that guru, and they started to do funny things, that they were seizing the temple, locking themselves up there in the temple, and doing weird things, you know? And just because their faith was not built on knowledge, you know, once they found, okay, so my guru, I don't want ISKCON, our organization is called International Society of Krishna Consciousness, for those who don't know. So we don't want ISKCON with our guru, you know, that was their faith. Their faith was built on guru, not on philosophy, on shastra, as we say. So anyway, that's why Srila Prabhupada never wanted Krishna consciousness to be associated with one of those dogmatic, so to speak, religions that are not built on philosophy. And that's why, again, I'm not putting down any religion at all, because I know there's some beautiful, beautiful people there who actually doesn't really matter, like which religion. Srila Prabhupada, when he was asked, what is the difference between Krishna consciousness and Christ consciousness? And he said it's the same. It's the same. Christ consciousness and Krishna consciousness is the same, because it's God consciousness. Unfortunately, if, you know, like Christians, as they said, if they don't have this fundamental knowledge, and they don't really understand what they're talking about, and also follow the rules and regulations that are specified in order to be, you know, to get purified, all sorts of things, because it's we talk about science, but anyway, there's all sorts of things you need to do in order to achieve, to know God and love Him. But if you don't do any of this, then, you know, you're as good as nothing. So anyway, as I said, I'm not putting down any religion. In fact, I was in Scotland recently in October, and there's this Scottish, he's an Ayurvedic consultant, and he had this book on his table, and it was called Russian Orthodox Saints. And I was surprised, like, why are you reading this book? Anyway, suddenly he became very interested in Russian Orthodox Church, and he was exploring, and I read a little bit about those saints, and it's absolutely amazing. You know, when I read about those Russian Orthodox saints, and I was like, whoa, that's Bhakti Yoga, like that's Krishna consciousness. You know, there's no difference. What they were experiencing, there was no difference from what I know, from my knowledge of Krishna consciousness. There was no difference, but it's very, very high level. If you're lucky, if you can meet him. So okay, now, I think we're clear now with why Srila Prabhupada didn't want to call Krishna consciousness a religion. But now, let's talk about why Krishna consciousness is a science. So, let's establish how do we define science? Interestingly enough, that nowadays there's sort of like two kind of trends, so to speak, in the ways of how to do science. So one of them is called metaphysical or methodological naturalism. What does that mean? it actually means that these scientists, from the start, they assume that everything around is only natural. There's nothing supernatural. Nothing. There's nothing beyond nature. And this is luckily is not a mainstream science, because you can't establish, you can't find God, you can't know anything about God if from the start you're assuming that there's nothing supernatural, only natural, you know? And if you can't see it, you can't prove it, that's it. It's not the mainstream approach. There's another more lighter version of this also, and it's called, what's it called? Naturological science from nature as well. So they also use only natural explanations, but they do not assume that supernatural doesn't exist. They just say, we do not investigate. Okay? We investigate what we see, we investigate nature. Maybe there is something supernatural, but we do not investigate. So the example could be, let's say, a mechanical engineer looking at the car and saying, you know, how the car starts and, you know, the engine, how it works and what's inside, what's outside, but doesn't care about the designer. Okay, he just said, I'm just studying this car. Doesn't really matter who designed it. So pretty much that's the mainstream approach of science. Okay, there might be something supernatural, but it's to do like it's religionists or theologists or whoever, you know, they may investigate. We scientists, we do not. So that's the unfortunate situation, and of course there are some very nice exceptions which I'm not which I'm not going to go into. Let's say my husband is also, he's Russian, he's a scientist, and I remember a long time ago, even in the Soviet Union era, there was this book, and he loved that book. It was called Physicists Are Laughing, something like that. And if you read it, like even in those era, you know, when it was a very atheistic country, but most of them, especially physicists, they were religious people, because once you study nature, especially like cosmology and things like that, you cannot know, at least doubt. It's too beautiful to be chaotically established, but we're not going to explore this subject. There is two approaches, right? And there's a general sort of idea. The general idea of science is to, or maybe somebody could give a description of science. What do you think science is? In a very, very generic way. Can somebody be brave and try to describe what science is?
Universal law or rule, it applies everywhere, same.
No, but I mean, it's science. What do the scientists do? What is the, sorry, what?
Do something in an exact way.
Right. That's the purpose.
Get the same output. Get the same result, like science means you have some process and that is giving the output, you know, in what is the output.
Correct. So yeah, so in a very general definition of science is that systematic study of an object, and you can find it in Wikipedia, systematic study of an object or phenomena to understand it. Yeah? Do you agree?
Yes.
It's a generic description of science. So from that perspective, Krishna consciousness is definitely a science. Because we have a very, very systematic way of understanding who God is. So we study very, very religiously what God is. We study all the process. What do you need to do in order to connect with God. First of all, to know about Him, and then what do you need to do to connect with Him, and also what do you need to do to love Him. So, by the way, is there any questions at this point? No. So, in actually how to very quickly, let's say, establish that it's a science, Krishna consciousness. Because in every science, there's like a scientific process of studying. We always have what? Like in the beginning, let's say you're a scientist, just imagine you're a scientist. And you are, studying a particular subject. And then you will have a theory usually, yes? You have a theory, a hypothesis. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Hypothesis. So there's a hypothesis, a theory. So in Krishna consciousness, it corresponds to what? Okay, devotees, please. Krishna is God. Yeah, we have quite a few tenets, so to speak. Krishna is God, I am the soul is eternal, you cannot destroy it, all these things. So this is our what? Our sambandha jnana, right? We have a very, and if you very quickly, we don't have a flip chart, but if you very quickly explain what our sambandha, what is the basic knowledge, is just imagine a triangle. Do you hear me well, yes? A triangle. At the top is God. So we say it's Krishna, but it doesn't really matter. God. This side of the triangle, there's a jiva, or a living soul, us. God, there's a line here. So we're connected, he's connected with jiva, obviously, because we come from him, right? And then on this, the other side of the triangle is nature. In Sanskrit it's called Prakriti. God, Jiva or soul, and here Prakriti or nature. So God is connected with nature by time. Now in our philosophy we study, in Srimad Bhagavatam for example, that the creation is not linear, right? I mean, it's not that it's been Big Bang or whatever, it's not that it's created and then at some point it will be destroyed and that's it. Or it goes inevitably. No. It's cyclical. It's being created at one point, sometime it exists, then it gets destroyed. Again, at some point it gets created, exists for some time, gets destroyed. So God is connected with nature through time. Because it is through God that the nature starts the creation, particular creation. And what's the connection of jiva, or the living soul, with nature? It's karma, the law of karma, because the living being, instead of doing what he is supposed to do, trying to connect with God, trying to understand him, serve him through service. God through service, by serving him. This is why the religious aspect of Krishna consciousness is all that you see. The temples, the deities, and all that, This is service. And also we're saying a particular mantra, which is called the Hare Krishna mantra, for so many times. We're saying it is chanting, This is the service as well. So, instead of putting our energy there, to try to find God and actually also get out of this material nature, this is what devotees are trying to do, because they know we're eternal souls and we don't belong here. And at some point when we understand that that's what we have to do, and get out, get back to the spiritual world. So instead of doing that, we're putting all our energy, all our efforts into material nature, into matter. And once we do that, we get entangled. Okay? So that's the connection. That's Sambandha in a very, very short explanation. This is our theory or hypothesis, which experientially, in the process of serving, we establish, right? We understand all this is realized knowledge. You know, and it's a very, very systematic way. We have our processes called in Sanskrit, devotees. How is it called, our process? What's the name of the process? Come on. Akidea. It's called in Ashtanga Yoga. That's not our process. No. So it's so we have our philosophy, our theory, so to speak. It's scientifically based on all the scriptures, and it is realized in practice by realized souls. And then we have our process. What is our process? Come on, devotees. What is our main process? Chanting. We chant Hare Krishna, Shravanam, Kirtanam.
Vishnu Smaranam.
Yes. Padasevanam. Yeah, and it ends with Atma Nivedana, complete surrender. So this is a process. This is our Hidaya. You know, just like in the science, you have your theory, and you're establishing experiments. You know. Okay, through the experiment. Okay, it's my experiment. Okay, I joined Hare Krishna. I got initiated. And this is the experiment, isn't it? Well, in our words, in our situation, it's more experience. It is an experienced knowledge. Our process is a real life process. If we would chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds a day for 2 hours, is there a result? There should be a result. Okay? This is how then it is a result. We also, during the process, we have quite a few steps. Again, the first step is your faith, your Shraddha, that's the first step. Right? And then the second step, we meet devotees. There's, what's the name? Before that, Sadhasanga, and then there's Bhajana Kriya, we get initiated. We start really practicing under your spiritual guru. And then there's a purification process, Anartha Nivritti. You see, this is very scientific, and you have to go systematic, you have to traverse every step. And you cannot skip, you know, you cannot skip, you cannot say, okay, I believe, you know, now I'm going to just go and have this love of God. No, you have to purify yourself first. In order to purify first, you have to associate with the like-minded devotees who know about Krishna. They can teach you about Krishna. You read, you study, and then this part of the process. And then, as I said, you take initiation, that Bhajana Kriya, you get a guru, he will teach you, okay, do this, do not. There's regulated principles of self. We do not eat meat, do not drink, we do not take intoxication, we do not gamble, we do not do illicit sex. So devotees become very pure. This is the process, it's a scientific process. If you don't do either of them, then you will not achieve to the next step, which is called Anartha Nivritti, which is purification, 75% purification of the heart, which allows you to actually now approach the goal, which is achieving, getting to know God and getting to love Him. And this would be, that process would be the result. So as I said, in science, when you have your theory, there's your experimental process, you do all these experiments, you achieve, you observe, you analyze, and then in the end, you will get the fruit, some particular result of your scientific study. So the result that we are, Hare Krishnas are getting in the process of this, what I've just described, from faith to getting to love God, it's the ultimate, we call it prema bhakti. The ultimate love of God, when you actually meet God in a different sort of way. It may sound very strange, but there's some realized souls who achieve this. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say today here. I don't know whether I was successful or not, but if you have any questions, or if you have any doubts, or if you have any counter arguments, please come forward and let's see whether we can discuss that. I'm so surprised. Yes?
And in the beginning, saying that when we say we approach God, Krishna or anybody, that because we go to God and we ask for different things, it's considered cheating. And at the same time, we also know Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita all kinds of pious people approach me.
Yeah.
So it is nice that people approach God, however their definition is. And at the same time, when you say it's cheating, how do you reconcile, or how are we supposed to reconcile those two different values?
Yeah. First of all, that's Prabhupada. That's not me. Like, I wouldn't even use this word. Prabhupada was very... I wouldn't call this cheating, but if you think about it, it is cheating. And yes, those 4 pious people that Krishna mentioned himself in the in Bhagavad Gita, they're people who are either in need, they need money, they're so poor, and they think, God, please, give me some euros. Or someone who's in need, or someone... because I'm translating from Russian into English and then was okay. He's in need of money and then he's in trouble. Like he has a problem. Like for example, me, I'm the case. I came to Krishna consciousness because things are starting to go badly for me. Like health-wise. I started to just literally lose my vision. And this is how I stopped. But this is like when something like something bad happens to you. And usually, I heard it a few times that this is like God embraces you, when you're in trouble, or you have something like terrible happening to you. If you think about it, that it stops you in your tracks. But if you continue doing that, next time something nasty happens to you, think, maybe there's some indication that I should change my route, or at least stop and think, So, and in the hindsight, usually when you analyze, oh yes, it didn't happen. So anyway, sorry, Pavani, to your question. So, you need when you need money, when you're in trouble, or when you're just curious. Another third type of person who comes to God is someone who's just curious. Those people are rare, by the way. And then someone who is, who's looking for knowledge, who wants to know, just wants to know, So, and these people that Krishna explains actually in Bhagavad Gita, they have this piety, They may be in need, they may be in trouble, but for some reason, this way or another, they have this piety that they accumulated from their previous lives or in this life that allows them to be in this situation when this question comes into their head, you see. They must have completed some nice things before. Maybe they've been, good, pious people before in their previous life, or maybe they did something really, really good, and this is what allowed them, like Krishna, says, okay, let's, and he sends this question into your head. So how do we reconcile that Krishna is saying that all these people should come to me?
All these people who come to me when they are in trouble, or they want wealth, or they're marrying, or they are all pious.
Yeah.
But just because they want something,
Obvious.
consider as
Cheating.
So how do we see that they are good yet not good?
Yeah, that's a good question now. Because when they come, they can come in need to and ask, but because in the process of a particular religion, because religion is the connection, as this nice Prabhu was explaining, it's the connection of the soul with God, it purifies in the process, you see, because there is a process that allows them to get purified, and in this purification process, when they come to the church, that's an endeavor, When even, you come, and maybe I need to leave some donation, okay, you leave, and that's through these steps, you're actually becoming more and more purified. But if you only continue coming to, it doesn't really matter which church, Hare Krishna temple or, Christian temple, and you only think of these. Oh, please, fix my problem. Fix this, do this. Okay, I give you a little candle, or I give you a little donation, but you, God, please give me this, that, this, that, this, that. That's cheating. Doesn't really matter whether. So, does this answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is like a business transaction. That's why it's cheating, because the idea that religion is not that the God is not your. This is what Prabhupada used to say. He's not your servant. He's not. He's not supposed to please you and do things that you want. No, it's the other way around. You are supposed to serve Him. Because that is your nature. This is again in our philosophy, this is what we study. The nature of the soul is to serve God. That's the nature. Because if you look at the nature, some of the newcomers, maybe it will be interesting to find out that everyone is serving. Everyone, even Donald Trump. Just listen to him. He's serving. He wants to serve. He wants to serve the nation. Mother is serving the child. 24 hours. I had 2 grandchildren with me today. They woke up at 20 minutes to 3, and here I am, I just need to prepare for my class. But yes, I was serving them, there's 2 little souls, 2 of them, and that's what I was doing, mother serving the child, the husband serving the wife is serving the husband, as I said, even like the president of the country is serving his citizens, that's everybody is serving. But point is that we're serving sometimes the wrong. We don't understand. That's not the idea. This kind of service would keep you in this world forever. You'll go from one body to another body to another body to another body if you keep doing this. But if you want to get out, you need to remember that your ultimate nature is to serve God, and once you do that, then you can get out. To get out, go back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. Any more questions?
Yeah, I would like to
Yes,
ask a
please.
question. I found in my life.
Sorry, speak up a little bit.
I found in my life very significant role played in evolution from faking until you make it. As you were asking, cheating. This significant part of my life was a process called meditation, and my question is.
Can you please? You can't hear.
My question is, what role and what place in Krishna consciousness plays simple technique of listening to God, meditation?
Well, but that's our main process. We call it chanting.
Besides, is it? I would like to see a percentage of the spiritual practice. You have chant, you have serving, you have devotion, you have praying, you have other, and what part of the whole practice of advanced yogi, bhakti yogi, has meditation?
All of it. All of it. Because even when you're doing the most menial service, like somebody must have washed the floor here in the kitchen, the temple looks nice, is it Laura? Someone must have done this menial service, but if you're doing it in meditative state of mind, because I'm doing it for Krishna and for Krishna's devotees. They will come, lots of people will come here to the temple to say Krishna, and let it be nice and clean.
I think that's a service.
It is a service, but you're doing it in meditative state of mind. You're not doing it, I'm doing it, because no one forced her to come and do this, right? But that's her meditation, because she knows, okay, when I'm doing this, I'm pleasing Krishna, I'm thinking about it, or if I'm, let's say again, big part of our Hare Krishna movement is cooking, because we're cooking and we're offering food to it becomes sanctified, it becomes a prasada. Prasada means mercy. When you're preparing, and you could tell the difference, when somebody is preparing food in a very meditative, which is supposed to be like that, in a very meditative mind, I'm cooking for Krishna, I'm not cooking for myself. I wonder if you would like it. That's a meditation. Of course, if you're thinking, oh, I love pizza, that's why I'm just making pizza, okay, I'll give it to Krishna, it may not even become prasada, But if you do it with meditation and the right state of mind, with meditation, Krishna consciousness 24/7 is meditation. Because meditation is not only like that, sitting in a perfect yogic pose. Meditation is a state of mind, isn't it? It's when you're focusing your mind on someone, and here you're focusing your mind on God. That's what meditation is. In a generic sense of the word, do you not agree?
I disagree, yes.
You disagree?
From my experience, personal experience with God, I started to hear God when the cloud of thoughts disappeared from the consciousness, and at that time the beams, the rays of light of the sun, God's sun, came onto my consciousness. And if with whatever, I'm a musician, and I know when I think, will it please the audience, I stop playing, because my pseudo soul start to be engaged in the process. And when I'm not thinking, when I'm not thinking about audience, when I'm not thinking about result, when I'm not thinking about anything, when the thoughts are not present, the melody goes effortlessly and bountifully, and at the end I'm amazed how it happened. How did it happen? And from my personal experience, I realized that the thought itself are destruction of the union between soul and God. And that's why my point was what part of meditation, when there is no thoughts, and it's a tough practice, when you're not thinking about God, when you're not having any tantra, any chanting or anything,
I understand.
when you craving that love,
I understand the
without
question.
thoughts.
But what is the purpose of that meditation? That's my question to you.
What is
the purpose of that meditation? Yes.
To hear God. Intuitively.
How do you know you heard Him?
Intuitively hear
You said you
God.
saw the light.
Metaphorically speaking, I don't see the light. It's like a clouds that close the sun, and when the clouds pass, the sun starts shining. So in my vision of meditation, it's when the thoughts disappear and the light of God starts to pouring on you.
I've never experienced that. I don't know. Maybe
My
I'm
question
unfortunate.
was just what part of the practice?
What part we don't have? We do not meditate on nothing.
All right.
We don't. That's the thing. Everything we know. Because as I said, Anandari, do you have something to add?
Yeah, just on the point that so one of our conditions is that we make mistakes. We are conditioned in a sense that we are in illusion, we make mistakes, we have imperfect senses. And therefore when we come to Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, of course we fake it to make it, as he said, because we're practicing the process, but the process hasn't entered into our consciousness. So Prabhupada explains that Shravanam is the first. Shravanam Kirtanam, and it stays the first. It stays the priority is hearing. So Shravanam is hearing, then Kirtanam is chanting, and the chanting comes from hearing. So it's I know one of my heroes was Tribhuvana Prabhu, and he told me one time that one of his most amazing experiences he had in Krishna consciousness, and he was a world leader in the Hare Krishna world, but one of his was cleaning the kitchen in the temple, and because he got this very powerful realization that he was cleaning Krishna's temple, Krishna's kitchen. So as you said, he was having that meditative experience, as you pointed out. But that meditation, that hearing, we're hearing about something positive, and that hearing continuously improves in the process. So it is wonderful to be able to hear even Brahma, so Krishna's energy is Brahma Jyoti. So when you look to Krishna, the first thing you're going to see is the light. Like Plato's cave, the person is almost blinded by that light. And so the prayer is, please remove the light so I can see you. So that process of going through that is part of the process of bhakti. But it's, for some people, that's the ultimate goal. And for others, it's a distraction to see the energetic. So we come to the energy, and we want, if we're fortunate, we want the energetic. We want to find the source of the energy, which is person. So, but for somebody who turns to the light, it's all wonderful.
But thank you, Prabhu. This, I think you explained it beautifully. Do you agree?
I understand.
Yeah. But do you agree?
I have my path that well established. I have my guru, and
so you are happy when you don't have any thoughts and you see the
I
light,
love bhakti.
and that's what brings you
Bhakti.
happy.
Bhakti was I was always drawn to bhakti, but
Right.
at the same time I was drawn into Raj yoga and Kriya yoga, and I found that meditation was a big part of grounding my bhakti and being more useful in life when I started to meditate, because I was all my life bhakti and like a wind, just chanting and singing. But
So do you realize that Bhakti Yoga is Krishna consciousness? Do you realize that that's what it is?
I know that, yes.
Yeah.
So when I connected Kriya Yoga, Raja Yoga with Bhakti Yoga, I became normal, useful to God, and He can operate me in many ways.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Doesn't happen very often, does it? Yeah,
God is the doer.
that's right. That's very good. So I think we're,
Can I add one point?
but we are behind time.
As you mentioned, like your doubt is really good actually. That's everyone has doubt. And the same thing, if you see the Bhagavad Gita, everything is there. As you mentioned, when I don't, go with the result-oriented process, you realize something. That's what Krishna told, right? You don't do that. You just do for me. They mentioned like Bhagavad Gita 18.6, right? Sarv dharman parityaja mamekam saranam vraja. Like, you leave everything, right? Stupid thing like we going to meditation, we see the wide. You don't need to see the wide. You see the real. And beautiful thing like Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm saying like people follow the process. Like all the process is there. But if you ultimate come to Krishna, that is saying Sarv Dharman Paritaja, like leave all the religions and come to me. I will take care to you. I will give you everything what you need. So that's a beautiful thing. That's a Bhakti Yoga. And all the process we are following, that's also good. But you not get the ultimate goal of the life. You again go to fall down again. And it will go to long time. You will not get that realization. But if you follow whatever Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, you have all the questions, and that's correct question. I'm not saying that's wrong anything there. But if you understand the Bhagavad Gita, follow all the process, you will come to Him. That's it.
right, Jai Prabhu.
Do you have Bhagavad Gita?
I have written by Paramahansa Yogananda, yes.
Oh, I see. What is your name?
Les.
Les. L-A-S.
Les.
Nice to meet you. I'm
Nice to
Govinda
meet you.
Das.
Thank you very much for, thank you very much for your kind attention.
That was a nice, wonderful discussion, and we would like to thank Govinda Mataji for explaining the science behind Krishna consciousness and the rules and regulation of karma. At the same time, explaining systematically the different theological concepts. So we would like to thank Govinda Mataji by chanting one time Hare Krishna Maha Mantra together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
And also one more thing, today's prasadam sponsor was done by Kaushal Prabhu and Gaurav Prabhu. So they are downstairs, they are cooking for every prasadam. So we would like to chant also one time for Hare Krishna for them also. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you. So now we all can stand up for Gaur Aarti. Hare Krishna.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Bye. Srila Prabhupada ki, Panchatattva ki, Shri Nityananda Hari ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtatatara Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki. Ananda Vaishnava Vrinda ki.
या प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपा गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की गंगा माई यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की पतित पावन हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की बृहद मृदंगा की समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की गौर प्रेमानंदे all glorious male devotees all glorious male devotees all glorious male devotees all glorious Sri Guru and Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Now please sit down. Yeah, please sit down. Yeah, please sit down for 5 minutes. After that you will have prasadam. Yeah, don't worry. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pranadhana Gajani. प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे।